Some thoughts then, some reflections on Leinster against Northampton Saints, the first of the Champions Cup semi-finals, which took place yesterday evening as I record this at Croke Park, and, well, has sent Leinster to another Champions Cup final where they will hope to finally achieve the 5th star they've been after for some years now. Some thoughts on the game, which I wasn't able to give yesterday evening because I was commentating on the Army versus Navy match, one of the oldest rugby fixtures in the world and the biggest amateur sporting event in the UK. It was my honour and privilege to be there commentating on that one and then travelling back home afterwards. The only disappointment is I wasn't able to be here to give you my immediate thoughts following this match, but I've sat down and watched the game today. I've got some thoughts I want to share, and with a view to looking ahead to the final, and in the case of Northampton Saints, to a potential Premiership final as well. Lots to talk about in this one. I want to know, as ever, what you think. I'll start the ball rolling with some of the conversations and tell me what you reckon, because I think there might be a couple of things which you disagree with or have an opinion on. Let me know in the comments down below. I'm Tim, this is Egg Chasers. Give the video a thumbs up, and I really hope, if I haven't already, I will earn your subscription. So yeah, I was surprised, and I guess I have to apologise to Northampton Saints. I thought this would be a comfortable Leinster victory, but I think I said by 10 to 15 points, 2 scores. As it was, this went right down to the wire, and Northampton Saints will be coming away from this match ruining chances that they missed that could have won the game. 20 points to 17. It was as close as that going into those final minutes. Leinster stuttered in the second half. Northampton did the same in the first half, and they almost cancelled each other out in that sense. But from a Northampton Saints point of view, let's just start there with the losing team. Semi-finals and losing by a margin of 3 points in Dublin to Leinster is absolutely outstanding. They'll be gutted, but that demonstrates how far they've come. Wins in this competition this season, 2 against Munster. They beat Toulon, they've beaten Glasgow, they've beaten the Bulls, and yet a narrow defeat to Leinster, knowing that they could have won. They have had a brilliant season, and there's some resilience in Northampton Saints that hasn't been there in years gone by, in recent seasons. Just an extra bit of steel. And they can go into potentially the playoffs in the Premiership and hoping to win their first title since, what would it be? Over 10 years now, isn't it? They can go in with confidence. They have been an absolute credit to themselves and the Premiership this year, which honestly, at the start of the season, I did not expect to see 2 Premiership teams in the semi-final, let alone getting as close as Northampton did to the final. As for Leinster, well, Leo Cullen needs to consider this tactic of letting his players have a few weeks off before important matches and then expecting them to just hit the ground running and not be at all rusty. It didn't work for them last year, and it's not working for them this year. And what are they going to do? And what should Leinster do through this month of March, building up to the final? I don't think you can afford to leave the players. I think it's clear now. There's a trend. I understand Leinster have got the luxury. They've earned themselves a brilliant position in the URC where they can rest players and afford to lose the odd game. But that is the element that is not working. Giving players 3 weeks between games is not working. And you have to risk a little bit of burnout and trust your S&C guys and trust your players to tell you the case. But yet you have to play them. Not every week, but you have to play them more than Leinster are. And I'm absolutely certain you're going to see the big guns playing in more games in the next couple of weeks. They have to, in my opinion, because, yeah, they look like a team that was slightly undercooked. Not to take anything away from Northampton Saints. And Munster, talking of Irish provinces, they've been showing what a bit of momentum can be generated from even some games away in South Africa. Now, I know that's a tough trip, but there's a balance to be struck. I'm not sure Leinster are quite striking the balance. I'll tell you what, though, one thing you have to say, and one of the biggest takeaways from this game, just watching it, even a day later, knowing the result, it still takes your breath away, doesn't it? That a full Croke Park is an incredible sight when there's a rugby game going on there. And now that the past is the past, and a lot of amazing work has been done by a lot of people to build bridges and smooth over what have been very tense issues in years gone by, now that door seems to have been opened, I'd love to think that you might see Ireland playing rugby games here again at some point. Not every game, obviously, just maybe the odd game on a special occasion. It would be very special. I think Aviva have the naming rights for the stadium, and I think as part of the deal, Ireland have to play their home matches there. But what do you think? Again, I'm English, so I don't fully understand, but I have an understanding of the issues and the history. Are we far enough past that now that maybe that could be something that in the future we could see more of? I'll leave that for you to tell me in the comments down below. Just a little conversation I'll start with. Back to Northampton Saints. And again, just got to mention these two guys. A young coaching ticket. Phil Dowson and Sam Vesti have done a brilliant job. Phil Dowson has overseen... again, it's not a transformation in Northampton. He's only tightened nuts and bolts here and there. But like I say, the steel and a clear process they've gone through. He's addressed the issues they've had defensively and with their set piece. And in Sam Vesti, they've got an attack coach who is destined, and give him time. He's got a long coaching career ahead of him, but he is destined for the international stage as an attack coach. No doubt about that in my mind. The Northampton attack that he's looked at looks great. I just want to mention as well Chris Boyd in that picture, because I think what we're seeing at Northampton Saints this season, he should take a lot of credit for. He didn't have the success while he was at Northampton Saints that he or the club wanted. They had some disappointing seasons, but one thing Chris Boyd did do is change the whole atmosphere at the club years back, bring in this brand of rugby which we're now seeing come to fruition with Dowson and Vesti, and he's invested a lot of his time and effort into the young players at Northampton who are coming through in big numbers with brilliant skill sets. It's great for the club. It's great for English rugby as well. It's good stuff. Back to Leinster then. They were just a more streetwise team, weren't they? And they have got that kind of champion pedigree. I know they need to win to be able to say they're champion pedigree, but they've got that experience in big games of just doing enough, and they just did enough. And I'll tell you one thing, talking about attack and stuff. Actually, I'll come to Leinster's attack in just a second. But one thing they do really well, those decoy runners that they send up, they do such a good job at almost being illegal, or maybe being illegal, maybe obstructing the defender, but just doing enough not to make the referee call it for a penalty, but also doing just enough to kind of put Northampton's defence out of shape. So they're just smart. They're a smart team. I do have an issue at fly half, and this is the other thing which maybe you'll disagree with. I'm just going to shoot from the hip on this opinion on Ross Byrne. Now, I know Hugo Keenan's massively important for Leinster, and I've been to Dublin to watch Leinster play a number of times, and I'm always blown away by the amount of communication that's going on from Hugo Keenan organising his backline. He is so important, but I'm not convinced about Ross Byrne. Do you know what? If I could make an analogy, I like a bit of American football. Ross Byrne's like a classic quarterback, like a classic All-American quarterback, like Tom Brady or something. Does the traditional job of a quarterback, or in this case, a fly half. The world now, the rugby world, is littered with Richie Mwanga, Marcus Smith, Roman Untamak, guys who have that kind of explosive running ability, unpredictability, boxer tricks. And that seems to be where rugby is. And it is, Marnie Libok, we've seen that with South Africa as well. And Ross Byrne does not have that in his locker, which is fine. And in the NFL, there's loads of those quarterbacks. It's still a good place for a good traditional type quarterback or fly half. But you've got to be absolutely incredible at those traditional skills. Andre Pollard would be one of the best examples. You have to be metronomically brilliant and consistent at those things. Ross Byrne is just not there. He's not at that level. And I don't know what the answer is. I don't know. Kieran Frawley, Geordie Barrett next season. Look, he can be. And I just have my doubts. And again, it could be just that. He's the focal point of the team, wearing the 10 jersey the year after Johnny Sexton's left. And maybe I'm putting 2 and 2 together and making 5. But it's just a thought when I was watching this game. Just not convinced. Tell me what you think. I'll tell you what I am convinced about, though. I absolutely love that man. How can you not love James Lowe? His post-match interview, how are you feeling? I could do with a pint. I just love the guy. And above all, as well as being a really lovely bloke, and I've been lucky enough to interview him a couple of times, as well as being a really lovely bloke, very affable and just good-natured, couldn't do enough for you. He's also a brilliant rugby player and was there when it needed it. And the two of those guys, difference makers for Leinster yesterday. Jamison Gibson-Park is having a sensational season with 2 assists to James Lowe for 2 tries, and that made the difference in the end. In the end, because Leinster's attack, well, just went AWOL in that second half. They had lots of territory, lots of possession, couldn't convert. Northampton, on the flip side, fair play to them, they managed to fight and stay in the game. But their defence, Leinster, has definitely improved, and you can see Jacques Nienaber's fingerprints all over that. But is it too simplistic to say they're missing Stuart Lancaster? Because their attack has, well, it seems to me, and I don't, maybe it's no Ringrose starting and having been injured, and Jimmy O'Brien and Hugo Keenan. Maybe it's as simple as that. And those guys come back in, fit, ready for the end of the month, and they go toe-to-toe as an attacking force with Toulouse. Again, I may be taking 2 and 2 and making 5. We'll see. But I'll tell you what I am excited about. The showdown at the end of May in London. Toulouse versus Leinster. Exactly what any neutral will be quite happy to watch. And Jameson Gibson Park and Antoine Dupont. Let's see once and for all who is the best scrum half in the world. I'll see you on the next one.